Israel and Palestine. In the 21st century, as we're speaking, we'll find that the words Palestine and Israel are mentioned almost every day, and people are confused. They don't understand, where did these words come from? The word Israel is actually in the Bible, but the word Palestine is not in the Bible at all. So it does great disservice by Christian scholars to suggest that there is a Palestine at all. There never was a Palestine, right? By the way, I'm not Jewish. I just wanted to remind you. I'm actually an historian from a Gentile background. Now, where do you get the word Palestine from? The word Palestine was actually invented by the nasty Roman emperors in AD 135. Why did they invent the word Palestine? They invented the word in AD 135 for one simple reason. They were out to insult the Jewish people. The Jewish people had been rebelling since 63 BC, it's AD 69, and last year AD 135. The Jewish people loved the independence which God had given the land of milk and honey, the land of Israel, from the Egyptian borders all the way to the Euphrates River, all that territory, right? And along comes a bandit nation from Rome, from Europe, and takes over their country. They got that warned about this, such things would happen. Anyway, the point is, the Romans were fed up with the constant rebelliousness of the Jewish people. So in AD 135, after they had destroyed the Temple of Jerusalem in AD 70 and destroyed Jerusalem city, the Roman Emperor decided to rename the land of Israel Ho Palestina. And the city of Jerusalem was renamed Aila Capitolina. Aila Capitolina doesn't sound nice on the mouth, does it? But Jerusalem, or Palestine, sounds very quickly. It's easy. It catches on very quickly. So, the Roman emperors deliberately changed the name of Israel to Ho Palestina. Why did they choose the word Palestine? Ho Palestina. Well, you see, they've done a little bit of history. They realized that a long time ago, there were people like Goliath who fought David. Goliath was a Philistine. Now, the Philistines were a non-Semitic nation. They were not Semites like the Arabs or the Jews. They spoke a non-Semitic language. In fact, you trace the Philistines' history to the border of Egypt, between Sudan, Ethiopia, and Egypt. That is where the Philistines originally came from. They were an African nation group, just like the Egyptians and the Ethiopians. Okay? And their father was a man called Ham, who also had a son called Cush. Okay? That's the history of the Philistines. And the word Philistine actually means someone that travels by boat. Ramesses III actually encouraged planting Philistines in his time before Abraham, right, into the land which is called the land of Canaan, after the Canaanites. Now, Goliath fought against Israel and many other Philistines after, like Samson, etc. Samson, Delilah. Samson, the Jewish leader, and he fought against the Philistines. Then the Philistines disappeared into history before they came the Romans. They were obliterated, just like the Hittites and other nations of the world, okay, that come and they're gone. They're no longer around. Okay, so when the Romans came in 63 BC, the Romans found no Philistines. But they remembered that the Philistines had been a constant source of headaches for the Jewish nation of Israel or Judah. Okay? So when the final rebellion occurred in AD 135, instigated by a chap called Bar Kokhba on the Jewish side, and the Jewish people lost, right? What did the Romans do? They says, from now on, we're going to call your land Ho Palestina, which is what they did. Your capital city will no longer be called Jerusalem, but Aila Capitolina. So from AD 135 until 1948, the Roman name of Israel had been changed to Ho Palestina as an insult to the Jewish nation. And in that period of 2,000 years, no Arab anywhere in the world dared to call themselves a Palestinian because they knew that it was an insult. Okay? But lo and behold, today we have people calling themselves Palestinians who ask themselves what's going on. It's all about politics, really, right? So we find that people calling themselves Palestinians are actually Arabs. They come originally from Lebanon, from Syria, from Jordan, etc. But they're not Palestinians because they don't have the Philistine language, they don't have currency or history. But they're just migrants from Arab migrants who are actually there. And they call themselves Palestinians when they got nothing to do with the ancient Philistines. And it's interesting enough, until 1948, people understood that you were calling yourselves Palestinian, you were talking about a Jewish person. After 1948, it took over 20 years for the name Palestine to be taken over to the Arab people in the camps in Gaza, etc. And that's wrong. Let me ask you this. There's a West Bank, is there? Okay, is there an East Bank? So why don't we hear much about the East Bank? Because you know who's controlling the East Bank? Jordan. But the Jordanians say they are actually cousins and brothers of the Palestinians today, right? The Arabs who lives in Gaza. In fact, there's a civil war there, 1970, in September, when Yasser Arafat was kicked out of Jordan and put it all the way to Lebanon, because the King Hussein said, we don't like what he's doing, he's destroying our country. Now, when the Jewish people came back again from around the world to their own homeland, but there were people living there, the Jews that have been living in Israel for a long time, right? We'll find interesting statements written by Arab leaders saying that it was not the Jewish people who kicked out the Arabs in the first place, in 1948. Quote, the refugees were confident that their absence would not be last long, and that they would return within a week or two. Their leaders had promised them that the Arab armies would crush the Zionist gangs very quickly, and that there was no need for panic or fear of a long exile. The Arab, quote, the Arab states encouraged the Palestine Arabs to leave their homes temporarily in order to be out of the way of the Arab invasion armies. Editorial Palestine, February 19, 1949, Amman. Quote, it must not be forgotten that the Arab High Committee encouraged the refugees' flight from their homes in Jaffa, Haifa, and Jerusalem, unquote. Broadcast by the Near East Arab Broadcasting Station, April 3, 1949, Cyprus. Quote, the Arab exodus, initially at least, was encouraged by many Arab leaders such as Hajj Amin al-Husseini, who was actually a Nazi, the exiled pro-Nazi Mufti of Jerusalem, and by the Arab High Committee for Palestine. They viewed the first wave of Arab setbacks as merely transitionary. Let the Palestine Arabs flee to neighboring countries, then go back again after they kicked out the Jews. But it didn't happen that way. Quote, we will smash the country with our guns and obliterate every place that Jews seek shelter in. The Arabs should conduct their wives and children to safe areas until the fighting has died down, unquote. Iraqi Prime Minister Nuri Said, as quoted by Nimir al-Hawari, the former commander of the Palestine Arab Youth Organization, in his book Sir Nakab, The Secret Behind the Disaster, 1952, Nazareth. Quote, lastly, I quote, I do not want to impugn anybody but only to help the refugees. The fact that there are these refugees is a direct consequence of the action of the Arab states in opposing partition, the Jewish state. The Arab states agreed upon this policy unanimously, and they must share in the solution of the problem, unquote. Emil Guri, secretary of the Arab High Committee, as quoted in the Daily Telegraph, September 6, 1948, Beirut. Quote, the Arab governments told us, get out so that we can get in. So we got out, but they did not get in, unquote. The refugee from the Jordanian daily newspaper at Haifa, September 6, 1954. So blaming the Jews for the Palestinian mess today is not really nice, is it? And it's not historically accurate. So what's going on? It's about politics of blame. The Bible says there's truth and justice prevail. May God bless you as we look forward to more installments. Bye-bye.